Hi everyone, doing a quick introduction to this video. I just got off a Zoom call with two of my friends, Macy and Patty. If you've been following me here for any amount of time, you would have heard their names because I mention them all the time. Um, Macy, Patty, and I met in publishing. Yeah, we all worked at one point in our lives in publishing, and currently the three of us form Future Media Empire. So we send out semi-regular newsletters about pop culture. So the three of us write about TV and movies and books and music, all the stuff we're into. The three of us are also into cards, and that's why I brought them into this space. Macy and Patty have their own decks and deck collections, and they pull cards for themselves and for friends as well. And I thought that it would be interesting to just talk about that and how, cards can be really useful and meaningful to people who don't necessarily fall under the witchy stereotype. Because I think that a lot of people who come into this space are kind of looking for validation that they're not alone, that other people are into this too, and just like regular folks like us. So we talk about how the cards can be meaningful and useful on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, different ways we can practice, challenges that we encounter when learning the cards, especially if Macy and Patty are into cards but they're not professionals. So as like enthusiasts, what kind of challenges or difficulties you run into, all of that. And I feel like you could learn a thing or two, pick up a thing or two, or at least be entertained. If you're bored, you'll have something to play in the background. I hope you're entertained by our conversation and you pick up a thing or two about how magic can really be practical and can be done by everyone and be for everyone and anyone. So hope you enjoy. Bye.
Hi, Miss Mace.
Welcome.
Welcome to your bangs. Ang ganda. Hindi siya bitin.
Maybe you want to introduce yourselves. Let's do alphabetical. So, Macy first.
Hi, I'm Macy. I'm a writer and editor, and I bake. I'm not sure when we decided to put together our newsletter, but I think that's one of the things that helped us stay in touch, like the past couple of years.
Years?
Uh, more
2
than a
years?
year, for
2 years
sure.
na
Yeah.
ata.
I'm Patty. Macy I've known because we worked together at Summit. She was in editorial and I was in publishing for Candy. And through Summit, I also met Chingai. I'm currently in Singapore and it's raining, and I currently work here in a tech company in a marketing role.
It's raining here too.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
same
crazy,
region.
stormy weather. I thought an interesting topic would be how people use cards in their everyday lives. Like, you don't have to be like a reader like me or an aspiring witch to use the card. Anyone can really have a deck of cards, and both of you do it yourselves. So I thought it would be interesting to share them so that other people don't feel so alone, because I've been getting some messages it's kind of validating to see that other people use it this way and it's not just like some like scary thing. For you guys, what was your first introduction to the cards or your first experience?
I'm not sure about my very first experience, but I just recall that I tried getting a reading from you, Chingai, when you were offering the readings in exchange for coffee, right? I started getting a reading every birthday for the past 3 years,
Really?
diba?
Yeah, I think so. What, do you remember like the first? Because I was doing it for coffee. Do you remember what it was about? Because I think I had like it was practicum for the workshop I was taking.
Yeah.
Every week we would cover like a topic. So week 1 would be, I don't know, about career. Week 2 would be about love. We started out like coffee, and then 100 pesos, this 200 pesos, parang incremental as you gain experience. That was fun. How about you, Patty? Because you were reading, you had a deck of cards for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had a deck of cards for a while. So my mom is very, very religious, but also very superstitious. I don't know why I recall this. I don't even know if this is true, but I think we have a deck at home. I think I discovered it at home at one point when I was a kid, or at least I saw a book on it. And I always found that interesting that my mom, who is very, very like prayerful and like not just like goes to church, like embodies like actual prayer life, was also very much into feng shui and tarot and like horoscope. So I thought that was like an interesting, so that was my baseline of knowledge, that it wasn't something negative to me, because I was like, hey, if my mom, who, is super into the church, is into this, like, can't be that bad. So I was interested already at an early age. I went to Singapore for like a trip. I took some exam back in 2004, and it was my first time to travel alone. And then I went to Page One in Vivo City, and I saw their like tarot selection. They had a shelf full of tarot cards. I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's time. Because I think there was one also in Fully Booked in Manila, but not as extensive a selection. And so when I was here to visit, I was like, okay, let me go look for one. The first deck I bought was the Mythic Tarot, because I liked how the death card didn't look like a scary death card the way it did, and the devil didn't look like. So it's based on, I think, Roman mythology, Greek mythology. But yeah, so that was my first, I guess, experience with cards. So back in 2004.
The reason why I chose my first deck was because I felt like it wasn't scary. The illustrations. Your first deck
is yours. Your deck.
You're one of the first who bought also. Always. How do you use them in daily life?
I don't do daily pulls. I just do the full moon and new moon. But sometimes if I feel like it, I will. I used to do it more frequently, I think.
Were you going through something? That's why you were doing it more frequently.
Maybe. I think it was that time when there were a lot of things happening to me at the same time. So I tried to get some answers, I guess, or like figure things out. I think that's when I started also doing the yearly readings with you. It was around that time.
Was it intentional na you stopped pulling frequently, or parang it just kind of slowed down and you realized?
I don't remember when I stopped doing more frequently, but then parang I always, siguro may mark lang the full moon and new moon, that parang I formed that habit na. So I still do it.
I didn't really do daily pulls until I got the journal. With my stickers, I'm kind of religious now about doing the daily pull, but also I'm doing it as a way to kind of learn more about the cards. Because like some cards I know more than others, but now that I'm pulling daily, then I take time to read more about the card. But I do it in parallel, so I'm doing your deck, obviously, which I know best because that's what I use most often, but I have other decks like the Mythic Tarot that I don't know as well, despite it being the first I owned. And then now I'm doing Jane Austen because we're taking that course. Whenever I pull a practical magic like card for the day, I see what the equivalent is in Jane Austen. So I'm trying to study the cards more. So that's kind of why I'm doing daily pulls, just so that I can see my other decks and see what they actually mean. Because I'm super just using my PM deck.
I still use the PM book.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. To see. Yeah.
And you have a notebook, right? Like where you so like do you compare? Parang are they like in columns? Like okay,
yes,
this
they're
is
literally in columns. I would get it. It's literally just right there. So literally it's a column of like, so let's say I listed all the cards, and then for the Jane Tarot deck, I put like the column PM deck so that I know because I memorize the lines that are underneath more than the actual numbers.
Yeah.
Like today's card is Trapped But Not Really. I think it's 8 of Swords, but I'm not sure. So something like that. And then I want to see what the equivalents are in my other decks, just so that I kind of understand the deck itself, like how the tarot works. So yeah. And then I also do new moon, full moon because you guys do it. So I'm like, oh yeah, nice, let's do it.
Do you have rituals when you pull? Like, do you do it at a certain time or a certain place? Do you need to have certain things in order, or you need music?
Natural light. Natural light for my flat lay? Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah, can we take a picture of this spread?
Yeah. How will I tag you? Yeah, so
I
that's my
don't do
one.
that.
No, even if I pull it the night before, I'll make sure that I take a picture in natural light to give the cards justice. So yeah, it's just prettier.
Noted. Sige, next time.
Before I used to, parang I bought this kit kasi from Woo Woo Ritual Goods. And there's like a guide for like setting intentions. And that's how it started pala that I was doing it regularly. Parang I would set intentions. I didn't have the practical magic journal yet.
Yeah.
But I was writing in a diary.
Yeah.
And following the
Ethany.
Ethany spreads. And then I would follow the guide,
From Woo.
the woo, yeah.
Yeah.
So usually after you take a bath,
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Para
And-
clean?
para clean.
Okay.
And then meron pa nga, you go into a corner of your room that you feel most peaceful in. May ganyan pa. I was super like following it exactly before until naging ano na lang, I will sage it. And then until I don't do that anymore, I just shuffle the cards. I don't get to do it like on the day of.
Yeah, I'm always after, before.
Yeah.
Basta around that time.
Yeah.
When you
Maybe
remember.
around that week or something.
Like my friend gave me sage, but then I'm scared of matches. So how will I light the sage? Problems. So I didn't really get to do the saging. It's still literally in a Ziploc now. But now that I have the gun to like light, so I'm thinking of like, oh, now I can. So yeah, so it'd be nice to sage because my roommate my ex roommate would always like sage the flat, and I would be like, oh, sage now, it's new moon, or sage now, it's full moon. So I guess I just ride off on her, but it's her ritual, and I'm just like, all right, time to shuffle. So yeah.
My lighter ran out of gas
Oh,
na.
no.
So that's why I do.
Yeah. You need
Kailangan mag-refill.
lighting implements.
I guess how have the full moon, new moon pulse been significant? Have they been significant? Are they? Because for me, they're like markers. They help me track where I am, and they kind of bookmark certain things that are happening in the month. I don't know if it's the same for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think because I don't journal daily.
Yeah.
I used to try, but I really can't. So this is partly documenting what happens in my life because usually what I write down or what I gain insight from the cards is making sense of what's happening to me at that time. It's nice to look back if like a certain card pops up again or something from a month ago. Oh, parang this is familiar again. And then you'll see like what was happening in that reading and how it changed for this month, for example.
I don't know about not necessarily the new moon and the full moon, but yeah, I also use it as markers because what are days these days? You don't really know. But it is a good like every 2 weeks kind of thing. Yeah, so I've been getting readings from you, Chingai, for a while now. I really find insight into. I look forward to my monthly readings. I get it at the start of the month or at the end of the last month, and it's always so comforting to read like. Not necessarily, it's not a what to expect, but how I can make sense. Like what Macy was saying, how you can make sense of what's going on. There are months when there's nothing going on, nothing of, consequence that I really, like when you're asking, what are your questions? And I'm like, and then there's someone sort of like, so many questions. So it's just, but it's always like really nice to go back into it, the monthly readings throughout the weeks of the month, like when I'm like, oh, it's a fourth week, I want to read back on my monthly reading. So it's been very, very useful for me. It's something I used to mark my months and something nice to look back on. It's also interesting to see the progression and how far I've come. Yeah.
As someone who pulls for herself and gets a reading, do they ever coincide? Like what you pull for yourself and what I pull for you?
Yeah, and I send you what I mean, unfortunately, you are the recipient of all of my polls. Like, guy. So,
It's fun. It's fun
for
when I'm the
example,
recipient.
yeah, you are the recipient of most of my polls, and especially like let's say when I am about to enter a situation, like let's say I'm going through something, I've already had my reading with you for the month, but I'm going through something else within the month, like say a party I don't want to go to, but I'm going to anyway. I just like pull like kind of like give me strength kind of thing. I don't know, like anything helps, you know. And I think one of those times I pulled a watch your back heartbreak warfare. And I was just like,
I remember this.
Carol!
Is this a party that
I
you went
remember.
to?
Yes, this is a party on a boat that I
Yeah.
went to, and I was
Yeah,
just
you
like,
sent it to us.
yeah, because I was
Yeah.
like, guys, should I even go?
And you went.
I went. I felt like throwing up because it was on a boat and more than that. But yeah, I thought it was nice to just be forewarned this forum because it's kind of confirmation bias in a way for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm already feeling things and
Yeah.
I'm very unsettled. And when I pull something, it's just like, yes, I know. Or it's okay, calm down. Like, you know, like that's how I feel like it's been useful to me. It's very much just, it grounds me in a way and it kind of helps me make sense of things.
I think the confirmation bias is true. And that's why parang people ask can you read for yourself? Because you kind of know. Parang you know,
You know
wanna,
this yourself.
sometimes you want to skew it a certain way.
Yeah.
Last night, the things that are taking up, are occupying my head right now is should I buy X or should I buy Y?
Or both.
Let's pull a card. Okay, card 1 for X, card 2 for Y, tapos card 3, what should I do? But I mean, at the end of the day, I know naman which one I want
What you
more,
want.
or like the fact
Yep.
that I shouldn't be spending money right
Money.
now. But it's fun lang. So, yeah, I think
Gusto mo lang kadamay.
yeah. Diba? Because like, wala naman tayong kausap now. We're all like by ourselves. So, might as well. You've both read for friends. Apart from reading from yourselves, you've tried reading for other people. Which
Yeah.
I encourage because, I don't know, it's fun. I like reading for people. That's why I do this, diba? But it's kind of fun. So, yeah, what was it like the first time, if you remember, the first time you've ever read for friends, or if you do it regularly, how different is it from reading for yourself?
Miko was the first one I read
Think
for.
so.
I think, yeah, on her
Yeah, on
birthday.
her birthday.
I don't remember what I said, but she said it made sense. I think maybe it's kind of like reading for yourself because you know your friend. Especially if you know like their history or what they're going through at a certain time.
Yeah.
Recently, I have a friend who moved to Australia, and sometimes she'll just random message me, "Can you pull cards for me?" And then she has no questions. So sometimes I'll just try to follow like the prompts in the journal for like the new moon or full moon that month. And since she doesn't tell me anything like specific, I just try to read the cards like I would for myself, kind of. And then for some reason, it's always exacto, she says. And then she'll make kwento after that, oh, this is what I'm going through now. And I guess it's what she needed to hear usually, which is, it still surprises me.
Yeah, it's the same, like reading for people who I don't know at all, who I've never met. You're really just going off of your own experience, I think, because diba, I mean, you can base it on the book, of course. Pero syempre parang that it's already tainted by your own experience, and that's all you're going by, and then 99% of the time, it's exactly what the person's
Yeah.
going through also.
I don't remember the very first time I read for someone, but I do. It's ended up becoming a party trick of sorts. Like when I go out with friends, they're like, "Make sure you bring your cards," which is both like nice, but it's also, I mean, I do enjoy it, but it's also sometimes a bit burdensome because I feel like, okay, every time I meet you, I have to read for you. Like I know they don't mean it that way, and I know that they're just like, I have these cards for myself, so I can do it anytime I want. So I think they obviously find it helpful. That's why they ask for it. But I guess that's the flip side of it. Like I do enjoy it, but it's also not my job. And like sometimes I just feel like, no, I don't have energy. And it's taken me a while to get to that phase where I'm just like, sorry guys, not today, but I'll read for you another time. I guess that's just like one side to it. But I think a funny story about reading for people for the first time is my brother, who is not at all into any of this stuff, when he went home one Christmas, so we were all home one Christmas, and it was the first time he brought his girlfriend home. I don't know if they weren't even fiance yet, but he brought home his now wife, and it's her first time in Manila. She met my family and my brother, and of course it was Christmas, so we're running out of activities to do, and my dad's like, what if you read for all of us? So it's become like, it's known that I do this. My brother, who is not into this, he's like, all right, sure, I'll read, and his girlfriend is there, and he picks 3 cards. And because I'm not really as comfortable, and your deck didn't exist yet back then, I was using my Mythic Tarot deck. And because I'm not as comfortable with that deck, I was reading from the book. And so I was just like reading cards for them. And none of us were married at that point. And I think one of the cards that came out, they weren't even engaged yet, was marriage. So it came out like a marriage, and my dad jumped up as if that was like yes, and I'm like, Dad, he hasn't asked her to marry him, can you read that? But then the next year they did get engaged, so that was funny. But yeah, I think it was just like one of my favorite memories of reading for people, because you really hear what you want to hear, because it's like, this is not the only meaning, but like obviously that was the meaning my dad wanted. So now every time we meet up, he'll be like, oh, maybe you should read. Maybe there's babies na. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, wow talaga. So, yeah, I think that's like the happy side of it. Like, people do find it useful and sometimes entertaining, and just like generally a nice party trick, like I said.
Because it can be draining also. So sometimes, and it's hard because sometimes you're in the mood to read for other people, or sometimes you genuinely want to help people.
Yes.
Because you know how it feels na you want your cards read, diba? And it feels good, but then sometimes it crosses like, over to the point
na ayaw mo na. And I think me, like, especially when I have friends that are going through stuff and who I know won't ask, I'll be like, hey, do you want me to like pull for you? Especially during the pandemic. During the pandemic, in a lot of my Zoom calls with friends, I would volunteer to read for people. And that's rare. I don't ever really volunteer because I'm like, I know they will ask. And I'm not even good. That's the thing. Like, I'm always like, that's why when you came here,
you know how
I'm okay. Knowing and being like really like comfortable with it is like, I'm so comfortable reading for myself because like I don't have to explain anything to myself, right? But when people ask questions and I'm like, I think it's like this, but it feels so, I don't want to claim to be the authority on things because I'm also not. And so like yesterday I met up with some friends who I haven't seen, well, because circuit break, we went out and I made sure to bring my deck because it's been a while. And then I was like, oh, so what do you want to read about? And like you were saying, Macy, like sometimes they don't say anything to you, right? But I really prefer when they do because I would rather, if you're asking me to do something, it better be specific. Like, help me help you. And then they were like, oh, what about like work? Or what about love? I'm like, please pick one. I'm not like a machine. So like, like, parang now I'm being more also assertive of like, okay.
Good for you.
We will, no, kasi, di ba, parang we have to meet
sayang energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not a boundless well of energy. And I want to help you, but you also have to be more specific. That's why it really helps when you know the person well because you know what they're going through. And it's so much easier to, at least make them reading more meaningful. Because what's the point of pulling cards if there's nothing, if it doesn't help then? Makes
it's
you
for friends, I find that I do it better when I send it to them rather than do it in person or on the spot.
Really?
Because I don't know, it gives me time to think about like each card and then
parang you're processing.
Parang the way I do it for myself. Sometimes I pull it now, but nothing is coming to me. I'll come back to them later on. So
it's so funny you brought that up. There's this one person that I read for, and she bought a deck. So she brings it to work. So at first, she would pull for herself and then other people would see. And then parang, uy, ano yan? Ganyan. So parang, uy, parang pull for me naman. Tapos it got to a point that everyone was asking her to do it already. And she was just like, I'm just gonna leave the deck here. Kumuha na lang kayo.
Pull your own card.
Even if it's just one card, it does take a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
Because you want it, like, I also feel this responsibility to the cards to be like, and to tarot. Obviously, it's open to interpretation, but because I obviously find it very useful for myself, I want others to also find that kind of connection with it. And so I don't want to half-ass things as well. It does have its perks, because like one time I was with friends and I was reading for someone's birthday. So it was always when it's a birthday, you read for everyone. And then there was a guy that I was crushing on that happened to be in the vicinity. And then my friends know that I was crushing on this guy. So they called him over, and it was also his birthday in like the area. So they were like, oh, she's reading cards. Do you want your cards to be read? And I was like, and I was so nervous because I don't think I've ever spoken to him. He's just very, very good looking. So I was like, okay, like stay calm and like, you know, be cool. And then I read for him.
Yung parang, okay, before we read, parang let me hold your...
It gave me like this false sense of like, and he seemed to enjoy it. Like, I think his last card I remember from Quiet Mystic was Make Love. And like, and this guy was like super like taken aback by it. And I don't really know him, so I don't really know anything about him. But the next year he got a girlfriend. So I guess it happened. But yeah, it was a good memory. But I think it makes you, it's a good icebreaker in a way, in case. Like, I mean,
good job, Quiet Mystic, Make Love card.
Yeah, I know, good job. I mean, I also use the Practical Magic deck, but I remember that card because when it came out, everybody yelled because this guy is like a perennial like player. And then biglang, wow. So yeah, now my girlfriend is siya.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Okay, in terms of the cards, like, what don't you understand? Or is there something that you have trouble with?
I know that the minor arcana has, like, I know the thematic themes and all that. Like, those are easy to memorize and understand. But I think the numbers. Like 1 I get, 10 I get, 2 is easy. But when it gets to like 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm like a bit, wait, what is it again? I know 8 is super stable. Like, I have to kind of connect it. It takes me a while. Basta 5 onwards. 5, 6, 7, 8 are the tough cards for me.
Okay.
Regardless of, like, the cups, check pag cups. But when it's like swords versus wands, medyo like, ooh, which one, how does it differ? I think, I know one is passions and one is like mental, like, but I'm like, is it a bit of both? So that, I think those are the ones I'm most confused with. And knights. I know they're the sophomore, but what is a sophomore?
I really need Código. I can't read, like, unless I've pulled it before or a lot of times. Then
enough times na it's drilled in your head.
Yes.
Like death.
Which is your card. It's your Scorpio card.
My zodiac, yeah. But I always used to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know it so well.
Inside out. But you don't get it anymore.
I haven't gotten it, I think, this year.
See? So, because tapos na siya.
I hope.
Diba? Yeah. Fun way to remember what knights are. Because like in literature, knights are always on a quest. So the knights are the ones who are looking for something. So if it's the Knight of Cups, looking for emotion, relationships, Knight of Pentacles, the approach, para what's he looking for that gives stability, and even the way he's looking for something is very like chill. If you look at the horse in the Knight of Pentacles, like the traditional tarot, the horse isn't even moving. It's just standing. Parang ganun siya ka-chill. Versus the Knight of Wands, which is fire. If may quest siya, it's like that. Parang fiery. And like the horse is like on his like high. For the numbers, nag-lesson na. No, 5 is easy for me, kasi 5 is always, basta that's the kaguluhan card. A card that whenever you pull a 5, it means that something is like shaken up. Regardless of the suit, parang laging may magulo if it's the 5th. The 6, 7, 8 took me a while also, but I had this one teacher who said 3 is growth. So if 6 means extra
More
growth.
growth.
And then 4 is stability, so 8 is super stable.
Yeah.
And then 7 is 4 is stable, 3 is growth. So it's stability and growth together. If that helps.
Okay.
Because I had problems with the numbers also. But as soon as I heard that, I kind of figured it out more. And then seeing now na the way I read, I think I use the numbers more than the theme. So yeah, if you're in a bind na you're reading for someone, the numbers an easy way to fall back on something,
which
even
I
if you
don't,
can't remember.
Which I don't remember, and that's why I need to remember it now.
Takes memorization. Seeing as like you're still in circuit break 2.
Phase 2. We're in phase 2.
And we're in this like purgatory here in Manila. Seeing as we're all here in this weird situation, how has the practice been helpful to you, if at all?
Well, it's a marker na. So it's something that's regular. I know that I'm gonna do it twice in a month. Throughout this quarantine, I've been counting stuff. It just makes the day go by easier.
Also, because
So
we don't know what day it is anymore. So at least you know na twice in a month something's gonna happen. Yeah.
So it's something constant.
Yeah.
At least.
For me as well, I do daily polls and I do the twice a month because of the moon. But I think like it was helpful for me, especially I think in end of April, start of May, when there was no end in sight. So we were in actual circuit break and they had just extended circuit break. They were giving us like a teaser of like what was to come, but there were no dates. It was tough on me mentally because even if I had a flatmate, the uncertainty was very tough. So it was nice to go pull a card and be like, oh, it's okay, hopes and dreams, or like something to look forward to. So it was just like nice to, and it was very comforting that the cards naman were very supportive. It wasn't anything like, like diyan ka lang or whatever. But I think like one of the people I read for during pandemic got trapped, but not really. So that was really nice because it was like, yeah, we do feel like we're trapped, but we're not. So like it was nice and encouraging. I think it was very encouraging for me.
For me, like, my life has slowed down a lot. Before, kasi I was so busy. Like, before, when I started getting into the cards, it was just a fun hobby. Wala na, I won't do anything. I'm just gonna look at the cards and study them and all that. Which has kind of stopped because I did it so frequently. Because I'm stuck at home. There's nothing much to do. It gave me time to go back and, like, do that again. I'm just sitting down and just, like, flipping through the cards and not really doing anything. It gave me something. Sometimes I read, sometimes I just look at it, and feeling ko, even just looking at it kind of plants things in your subconscious also. Because I've been pulling a lot more often, my dreams have become super vivid.
Your dreams are crazy vivid.
They are every night. I said
better than Netflix.
Whenever you say a dream, I'm like, is this like something you conjured? Because it's crazy.
I feel because I work with images so much. That's why I feel that my dream state is quite heightened. It's funny, parang this last week, every day, my college barkada has been in my dreams. So like every morning, I report to them na parang, so guys, this is what happened last night. Parang yung isa, parang she's never in the dream. Na parang, how come I'm still not there? Everyone else has, the other one has thrown 2 parties so far. One, twice nag-travel na kami. So at night, I go, good night. See you tonight. it just made sense now. Maybe it is because I'm working so much with images and meanings and all of that. I have a lot of Pisces in my chart and they're like the ones who are into imagination and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe that's it.
I think that's just something that I wish I knew more of. Connecting the tarot to zodiac, astrology.
Yeah.
And that's why I was super interested in your woo filter deck because it also kind of helped me understand
The relation.
the relationship, but then also the Jane Austen deck. In the book, they really call out like Saturn in Libra or whatever, and then you